Alrighty, play-by-play podcast, Rugby World Cup, and its semi-final time is here. A cracking quarter-final weekend. We're to break it all down and preview two massive semi-finals this weekend. Jordan Hughes with you, and joining me once again, Tyler Campbell, Ian Stowers, and boys, the best games of rugby I've ever seen.
Mate, how good. All games decided by, I think it's less than 12 points, and that New Zealand-Ireland and that France-South Africa game are probably some of the best games we've seen at the World Cup. Like, phenomenal weekend of rugby.
Yeah, Reed, did you love every moment?
Yeah, I think watching the All Blacks versus Ireland game, my whole family, edge of our seat stuff, right to the wire. I think France and South Africa as well, even England. Yeah, like you said, all of the games so close. Physical as well, and running rugby in a World Cup.
Who said rugby's dying? It's not dying, it's thriving.
100%.
All right, let's get into it. First, we'll start with our recaps, and we'll start with the first one. Quarterfinal number 1, Argentina 29, Wales 17. This was a game of two halves, really. Argentina came home strong, but Wales started the first half really positively. How do you see it? Yeah,
like obviously last week I thought Wales was going to get the job done, but it's sort of Argentina came out to play, and typical Checker side, they don't give up, and that Argentinian spirit sort of got them through to the end. And then you see that little intercept that sort of closed the game, and you saw the passion that they had after that win. But I think moving forward, big task for them this week, obviously. But big shout out to Wales as well, though. I don't think anyone expected them to sort of do that well in the World Cup.
And we certainly didn't.
Jack Morgan for me was phenomenal. Like his defence that game, I think he ended up with like 16, 17 tackles. So big performance from him.
Half time, Reed was 10-6 to Wales, and then Argentina stayed in the fight. That last 15 really turned on. The momentum shifted. How did you see that second half? What was the difference for you?
I think that Argentina were really patient and capitalising off the back of Wales' mistakes. Like they weren't doing too much forcefully trying to make plays or anything, but when Wales did make mistakes, like you said, that intercept, like that's match-winning stuff, and they came away with the win. But also, even towards the end of that first half, Wales get an exit there, don't get the ball out. Argentina hold on to it for a long period of time, and then they get a penalty, come away with the points, and then it's 6-10 going into the second half.
And that changed everything. Czech would have had a massive halftime pep talk. They came out a new team in that second half, Argentina.
They would. I don't know what happened to them in that halftime. It must have been something good was said. Must have been, he's a businessman. He must have had something in his back pocket to sort of prompt the boys up there, because they came out with a different level of physicality. Looked a lot more structured as well. And as Rian said, their patience and ticked over the points and sort of capitalised when it counted.
I'll touch on Sanchez quickly. Obviously, didn't get the start, came off the bench, got the interception try. He played really, really well. Does he start this week, or do you think he had to go unchanged?
He has to. I said it last week, I couldn't believe that he wasn't starting. And, he's a quality footballer and he's an out-and-out 10. So if they're not starting him in a do-or-die game like this, where you're probably going to need to play 80 minutes of your best rugby, it'd be a big surprise. But if he's coming off the bench, he's probably one to watch, sort of open up that game if it's tight in the last 30 minutes.
Any closing thoughts on this one? I'm just happy for Checker. We've got an Aussie in there, someone.
Yeah. At least one Australian, in the World Cup final.
We'll take it. Next up, this was an absolute contest. Some of the best rugby I've ever seen in my life. People are saying it's the best game of rugby they've ever seen as well. New Zealand 28, Ireland 24. Emotional rollercoaster for you two, I can imagine.
Yeah, well, my whole family, got up and watched the game, and just sitting there screaming at the TV for the whole 80 minutes. I think real close, real physical, but right from the start, All Blacks had the jitters. 2 passes straight to the ground, and then 2 kicks that were absolutely terrible, and it kind of felt like one of those games where maybe we might not get up from the start, but everything went well, and All Blacks are in the semi.
On that, just before we get into the game, the haka and how the Irish sort of drowned it out, and a lot of chat about whether that's disrespectful or that's part of the game. What do you sort of think on that, Tyler?
Look, New Zealand does the haka as a cultural reference to obviously our Indigenous people, the Māori, and it's a big thing for us. But if teams are going to combat and they're going to sing over it, it can be seen as disrespectful. But people also don't really understand the culture and what it means, behind it. And then obviously Ireland did the 8 as their sort of. I actually don't know if it was meant to be an 8. Whatever
it was a figure 8. It was to do with
someone passing away.
Yeah. So there's obviously a lot of emotion out there, and I don't think the Kiwis, the actual All Blacks, would have taken that to heart. It was still business for them, and that for them was them laying down their challenge, and obviously the fans are in there behind it. I personally don't take too much offence to it. I don't know how you feel.
No, not at all.
But, you know, some people obviously do, but it's just people not understanding the differences in cultures, and, you know, it's probably better to educate them than to bring them down and harass them about it.
Yeah, for sure. And on the game front, how do you see it?
Mate, I just thought it was a huge game, and look, I was pretty confident last week. I think that could have been the Kiwi in me, but I just felt like for the first time, we were the serious underdogs going into a game. And we had nothing to lose. We can go out there, and for me, sort of New Zealand rugby and South African rugby are the pinnacle of talent sort of in the world in terms of players. So I never doubted the players we had. We were just going up against a really well-coached side, and we came in with a game plan. And I think the tone was set early, and a good captain's knock from sort of Sam Cane. Those 2 early hits from him really changed the physicality in the All Blacks style.
Because he cops it a bit, Sam Cane, in the press.
Forever.
Because they kind of compare him to McCaw. Is that why?
Yeah, I think so. Like, ever since he's come in, everyone's been like, you know, he's not Richie McCaw, and he's been fighting against flankers that have had real flashy seasons, but he's just a workhorse. You just have to have him in there. He's a leader. He's a workhorse. And I think you take him out and it changes the All Blacks a lot.
So he's a bit of a scapegoat. So obviously we didn't perform last World Cup, and he probably was still a bit fresh to it all, and everyone was like, well, why is he captain, Artie, blah, 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 all that. Yeah. But like, having been in an environment with him, he's such a good leader. And it's the stuff he does off the ball, like his breakdown work in terms of cleaning rucks, his shoulders, like he puts big hits in, he's into everything. And, you know, he's had broken necks, he's had concussion problems, because no matter what the game is, he gives 120% and throws his body into everything. And I just think, you know, New Zealand public were looking for a bit of a scapegoat. Like, there's obviously, they rip into Foster, they rip into him, because we haven't been the dominant team that we have been. And I don't think that's that we've necessarily stepped backwards. I think it's everyone's stepped up, and everyone, you know,
the gap's getting
closer, and people are starting to get Kiwi coaches or getting Kiwis into their system or getting South Africans into their system, and everyone's building up. And I just think, the gap closed, and fans just didn't probably react to that well, and just wanted to find someone to sort of put the blame on. But I think he silenced a few people on the weekend, because, you know, obviously Artie, man of the match performance and well deserved, but he was right there second and behind him.
Partnership.
They were just,
I was going to touch on that Richie Mwanga to Will Jordan try. That just the pace that was fucking electric to watch.
Yeah, he just shows that inside ball and bang straight through the hole, and then does perfect to go straight at the fullback instead of, you know, coming in midfield. Goes straight at the fullback, so he has no decision to make, and then gets it off to the speed. Will
Jordan was just in cruise control next to him, eh?
Yeah, he's just both of them world class. But speaking of world class, like, all the players that we thought would step up in that game did. Bundy Arki had an unreal game.
Yeah.
I had Andrew Porter, a couple scrum penalties, but around the field, off the ball, he was everywhere. He was in a ruck in the 22. They make a line break. He's the first person to hit that ruck down there as well. Like, real good individual performances as well. Bowden Barrett.
Yeah, I was stoked he played well, because I think he was everyone's sort of,
why is he at fullback?
But he well and truly sort of put his hand up. And I think it goes on what we said last week too. We talked about key matchups, talked about the back row. New Zealand sort of won the battle there. We talked about the battle of the tens, and I thought Richie, you know, I didn't think Sexton actually had his best game on the weekend. I thought Richie really stepped up and sort of took control of that game and had big moments as that try.
Yeah.
And then obviously we talked about the back three, and I thought Leicester stepped into it well and probably deserves to keep his spot next coming into this week. Not sure what they're going to do there, but yeah, I just think we won the little matchups of key players, and, you know, it was good to see, because obviously Rian would have been the same. We were cheering, and it was just good to see us get over the line. People put a bit more respect back in the sort of All Black name. For
sure, because everyone's been writing the Kiwis off, me included. A lot of people, they, you know, Zealand under the radar, and they stand up in the big moments and show how good they are.
When you're at the top, everyone wants to pull you down.
Yeah. I just think we've peaked at the right time.
Yeah. Which is what World Cup's all about.
Exactly. And, you know, you can talk about Ireland. I'd probably thought they peaked a few months ago, to be fair. They had a little bit of a scare against Samoa building into it, which sort of put them a little bit back on the right track. But it's hard to keep win streaks like that. I think anyone that's been involved in a team that's sort of winning 16, 17 games in a row. Like, they probably overplayed their players in pool play.
Yeah.
Like, going into that game, they had 14 of their 15 players had played over, I think it was 210 minutes,
Crazy.
whereas New Zealand had 2.
Yeah, their squad rotation's been really good, I thought,
Yeah.
Kiwis. You spoke about Bundyaki. He is world class. He is just unbelievable to watch. But one man that probably didn't get as much limelight was his opposite number, Geordie Barrett. I reckon he stood up and played really
Player of
well
the game.
at 12.
Physical, holy.
And that, yeah, we'll get onto that, the held up.
Held, like, that was,
Yeah,
that was
they
the player
score
of the
that,
game.
Ireland win, do you think?
yeah. Oh,
Well, the pressure's now
Yeah.
on New Zealand to
Yeah,
go
it's
out
last,
and win
was
it.
it last
Exactly.
5, was it, when that
Yeah,
happened?
but that, holding him up, you get a big drop kick downfield, and now it changes the whole
was that off
complexity.
a maul as well?
Yeah, he just slipped in there
Right,
and got
and
under it.
like when you are seeing a maul come in, everybody's thinking the same thing: get under the person at the back. But like the chances of doing it normally is like 1 to 100.
And we'll see, if he's in his 12 channel, he's popped in to
Yeah,
do that as well.
he's coming for the work as well.
He's also surprisingly big.
Yeah.
The first time I ever ran into Geordie Barrett, I like looked at him and was like, this guy is massive.
He looks really skinny, but obviously he's tall as fuck, isn't he?
Yeah, he's like 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And like I think his kicking on the weekend too, like a couple of those punts he put in. Like, he's just got such a big boot.
But how was your heart and mouth when they went over? Do you think they scored at first when you watched it?
Nah. It looked like he was under him, like
You're
right
right.
from the start. I was pretty confident.
My final point on this: the 37 phases from Ireland at the end there, the most ever in Rugby World Cup history.
Yeah.
I read today. That defence, and there were good pages from them, but the defence from the Kiwis, they just composed, didn't stress,
No penalties
Yeah.
over 37 phases. That's
and then
unreal.
they get the turnover.
Yeah.
I think it sort of sums up Ireland's game, that passage of play too. Like they're normally a team that sort of goes at you a little bit and earns their sort of right to go wide. But I think a couple of those big hits early sort of scared them away, and they did get quite lateral. Like I know there was a lot of phases there. Obviously, as a ref, you don't want to call that. It was probably a couple of times I was screaming at the TV, how's that not a penalty?
Artie?
Yeah, Artie's one, he's one of them. Like, to be fair. But
Bro, he's all over that.
and it took such an obvious one from Sam Whitelock for it to be blowing up. But
Yeah.
that is such great patience. And if you've ever been in a team that's had a moment like that where you've defended sort of 10 phases, 12 phases, and you finally get that error or you get that turnover, it's such a big confidence boost and such a morale boost for your team. And especially into the game like that, you could see how pumped they were, and you could sort of see the reactions, from Rico and the stuff that's gone on after the game. But
yeah.
It's a bit of tongue in cheek, it's all part of it. I
oh
think.
mate, what goes around comes around.
Yeah, exactly right. It would have been exactly the same thing on the other way.
Oh, definitely.
Finally, on this game, the referee. What did you make of that?
I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Like, obviously,
There's a calls that go both ways, and that's just
yeah, and I think the issue with the refereeing is not necessarily the game itself and the one game; it's the consistency of calls across the weekend.
That's exactly what Ree was saying.
Yeah. I think this game the reffing was really good, but I think when we go into the next game, I'll talk about that.
Was it O'Keefe that had the Kiwi game?
No,
No,
he had
Wayne
the South
Barnes.
Africa.
Yeah, Barnes, right.
Keith had the South Africans, and
'Cause that's-
Yeah, I
that's
thought
it
that Barnes was really good.
yeah. To be fair, I think Barnes is the best ref in the world at the moment.
We didn't get a nod this week.
Yeah, because I think they're probably going to bring him in come final.
Oh, okay.
Like, I don't think they'll do 3 in a row.
Yeah,
But
true.
yeah, he's the most experienced ref. He's looking at breaking Nigel Owen's record.
Yeah,
He just broke the World Cup one. So, like, yeah, he's been around for a long time, and I know he's had his ups and downs. And obviously, I mentioned it last week, the 2007 quarterfinal against France, he cost us. So there was a lot of doubt for Kiwis with the back of their mind, but he's still a quality ref, and I thought he refed that game well, and he actually let it flow.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the biggest thing about refs is when they start blowing their whistle
The
too
stop
much.
start,
A, it's
yeah.
frustrating for fans. B, it's frustrating for players, and no one really wants to see it. So I thought he did a sensational job at keeping that game flowing and sort of making it the entertaining spectacle that it was.
So New Zealand booked their place in the semi-final against Argentina. Quarterfinal number 3, England 30, Fiji 24. Another absolutely incredible game. England came out firing in that first half, but Fiji, they made it a contest in that final 10.
Yeah, I feel for them. And this was probably one of their best shots at getting to the semi-finals. And, yeah, like, as we said, consistency of calls. Owen Farrell puts his hand out on that ball, and you probably don't see the difference between that, Aaron Smith's, and it sort of, changes the whole flow of the game. If Farrell's in the bin, Fiji probably go over and, they're getting a kick to try and win that game. So I feel for them. But, yeah, England, well done to England.
Even Tom Curry.
Yeah.
Grass cut, like blatant grass cut.
Yeah, now the guy's knee stuff too.
Yeah, and nothing. No card, no nothing.
Yeah.
I think if that goes the other way on a playmaker for England, so a Fijian doing that, I think he's gone.
Yeah, 100%. It's card for sure.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was just thinking,
But
double
I feel
standards.
like that's been the whole World Cup. I feel like England, there's been a lot of complaints towards their sort of, the Samoan game.
Yeah.
There was a bit in the Argentinian game where people were complaining. They are sort of where world rugby's based, and there's a lot of English sort of around there.
Well,
And
they are the birth of the game.
Yeah,
aren't
so
they?
I can understand why people sort of look for reasons more often to sort of pick on England as well, though.
Yeah, we're
Because,
looking for it.
Like, we're the
as well,
same.
so-
First podcast, we were all like, I hope England don't make it.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Everyone hates England. It's the same as football as well.
out
and
of
soccer.
spite.
Like, no one likes England. But, yeah, I just thought Fiji had a few moments that just didn't go their way that eventually sort of led to that loss. But phenomenal performance from them to fight their way back into that.
Yeah. So Frank Lamani missed 3 penalty goals. That's 9 points. That was a crucial part. And in fact, as you said last week, Tyler, he will kick them to victory. And that's what he did. 20 points from Farrell.
Drop goal,
Yeah.
penalties. Like,
So it was 13-3 after 22 minutes. Fiji got that yellow card. Then it was 21-10 at half time. England control. But that last 15, I'll talk about that a bit. That was electric. 24-17, they got 2 in a row. Like, what were you guys thinking at that moment? You thought, they're on here?
it reminded me a bit of the Welsh game.
Mm.
And I don't know why it's becoming a common trend for the Fijian side. They sort of, out of distance, they come back and they're trying to fight that last 5 minutes. And because we all know Fijians can put 2-3 tries on just like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, why can we not see them play like that for 50 minutes? Because they probably play that for 50 minutes and they win.
Yeah.
But it's just in those 15 to 20 minute spurts where they just go off and you're like, this is the best rugby I've ever watched.
Yeah.
Like the offload stick and everything. So I think the big thing for them moving forward is just finding a way to translate that into more meaningful minutes so they don't have to chase games and they can just sort of go forward and, have the lead and be in control a bit more.
Yeah, and I think that comes back into, like, Fiji need to make playing for Fiji a priority, because I think lots of those players that are over in France or playing overseas, they actually aren't allowed to play for Fiji when it's not a Rugby World Cup year. And I think if they get a squad together that is looking towards the World Cup and they're playing for those 3 years heading into the World Cup, you'll see 80-minute performances put together.
Yeah, it's
Definitely.
huge. You said before that tier 2 versus tier 1 nations.
Yeah.
There's still a gap there.
Yeah.
The skill level is catching up, but it's the programs and
Yeah.
the amount of time they're playing together.
Yeah.
It's a French club. They don't release them, do they?
No,
They're saying-
yeah, I don't think they release them at all. And yeah,
I think
what
a
can you
lot
do though?
It's got to do with money.
Yeah, exactly.
And
what
I'd
can the
love for
players
the
do?
sake of the game if these big unions can sort of invest a bit more into these island nations. Like New Zealand sort of does it with Moana Pacifica, but at the same time you see players like Levi Moore and
Yeah, they just
stuff.
get taken
They
back
just get
into
taken
New
back.
Zealand,
Yeah.
into the system.
So I'd like to see the investments more into those, like the Fiji and Drua. Like we saw how exciting they were this year, and they're still sitting sort of without the funding. Like they just finally got a place back in Fiji, but
Yeah.
they sort of still struggle to sort of get the same traction that the other Super Rugby clubs have. So I'd love to see World Rugby start an initiative to sort of invest into those nations, like invest into Portugal and stuff like that. We saw they're a bit of an untapped market, but we saw the support they get from their country because it's only going to grow the game.
Yeah.
And we could have it like a soccer World Cup where there's a top 16 and there's all these teams. Anyone can win on their day, and
yeah,
it just makes it so much more interesting to watch, and it just grows the game, and in the long run grows the money in the game.
What's really exciting about what we can do with
Yeah.
all these nations is we're in a great spot world rugby wise. I don't want to take away from England. They played good test match footy.
Yeah.
They
got a
did
job.
what we said they were going to do.
Yeah.
We know sort of what their identity is, and they like to slow the game down. They kick the ball away. They back their D. They apply pressure through points, and they'll do the same thing this weekend going into South Africa.
Yeah, so England have a chance to go back-to-back grand finals in the Rugby World Cup. Finally, quarterfinal number 4, France 28, South Africa 29.
Another banger.
Yeah, this was an absolute doozy on a Sunday morning. There's plenty to talk about here. Break it down for me. How do you see it, Ray?
First thoughts when I started watching the game was, holy fuck, Springboks are gonna get rolled here.
Mm-hmm.
But then a couple. I think that the riffing of this game is the worst riffing that I've seen for ages. So many controversial calls. That even slap down. I mean,
Yeah, it's Beth. Matt?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, you can argue that he's slapping it back, but he's just sticking his hand out there and
it's just, they're gonna, it was
disrupting
two
the
on one.
play. Yeah, try scoring opportunity as well. As much as I hate to say it, like South Africa, they know what they're good at and they play to it well. They put the ball up high, put pressure on, and they got points off the back of that twice. Then turnovers, get it to their flyers and score off the back of that. I think it's easy to sit back and say, well, this is shit footy to watch. But I mean, if it's your team doing it, you're thinking, oh, this is a well-constructed game plan right here. Yeah.
And that's Springboks to a T, isn't it? Tyler?
I just think they're sort of, what do they call them, the Doom Squad or whatever they call their lot off the bench. They were huge in the back end of that game, and I think especially it's well coached when, you know, Itzebeth gets that yellow card. 5 minutes or 10 minutes in the second half, whatever it was, when he come back on, they bring those players on with them. Yeah. So now you're getting 4 or 5 players in that pack that come on and were just immense. It's sort of changing the whole dynamic of that game. Because if you watch the first half and took away the score, you're like, France were easily the best team on that field.
Fucking all over them.
And Rian brought up a real key moment. Like, Itzebeth, you know, he gets away with sort of putting his hand out there, and I don't really see it being that much different to sort of what Aaron Smith did. Like, Aaron Smith sort of went straight down and hits his pinky, whereas Itzebeth sort of full slaps it.
Yeah, he's seen more obvious.
Yeah, and it goes backwards, so it's deemed it's not actually an intentional knock on.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a bit of scrutiny around that law, but from there they kick it out. They turn over, I think, the next line out. They put it up, which I think they actually found the French kryptonite, the high ball. Just like they find the kryptonite of the France team.
How many did they even catch?
I don't know. That was the thing. They just worked out.
I don't think they really caught any. Like, even the ones that they shut down, I think it was someone would smack it back, it would bounce around, someone would dive on it, and then they would set up a ruck off that.
It just sort of changed the game. Like, obviously, then they give it to their winger off a turnover there. He scores. Do it again. The 12, what's his name? Delendy makes the break. They go one phase. He scores. So there's 2 tries off kicks and then turnover line out. So that whole first half, turnover line out, out to Creel, kicks it through for Cheslin, and he scores.
Wasn't that a gun try as well?
Yeah, like
that was
those are 3 moments where French have made mistakes off South African pressure.
And they get points.
And South Africa come away, I think, with 21 points. Like, Lebok kicked really well on the weekend.
Yeah, all of their exits, everyone that was exiting for South Africa, like almost all of them were to the 50.
Yeah, and that's just, you know, it's smart footy. And you go in now, France are up at halftime. Was it 21-17 or something, or 21-15? Something like that. I can't remember exactly, but you're going, how is South Africa ahead here? French come out and they look like the better team again. The Doom Squad, I'm going to call them a Doom Squad because I can't remember what they call them.
Isn't it Boom Squad?
Boom Squad, it's something like that. Yeah. It's something like they come on and change the complexity, and then South Africa sort of ticks away. And
I don't like it. Dodgy, I reckon.
It was dodgy.
Bro, I reckon the concussion it's so dodgy. Yeah,
the concussion one was dodgy.
They had 3 of them or 2 of them where they empty their whole bench at 50 minutes, and that's pretty ballsy.
And then a couple blow out.
Yeah, but then they have 3 HIAs where they get fresh players coming back and forth on the field.
Yeah, and I don't want to say typical South Africans, but they've been known to sort of pull tactics like that.
You dog.
Well, Rusty, that seems...
But here's the thing, they're not breaking any laws.
Cut that little fucking...
They're not breaking any laws. They're probably pushing boundaries and pushing the integrity of the game.
But they know what they're doing.
And it pays off in the long run, and it's good to see sort of Andre Pollard, after being on the outer, come on and kick that winning goal.
So wasn't he a massive inclusion coming on? That was a booming kick.
No one else is kicking that in the South African squad, like, respectfully. And they get that chance and he bangs the game winner, and the amount of people that wrote him off and he comes and does that, it reminds me a bit of sort of Stephen Donald in the 2011 World Cup for the All Blacks.
One moment I want to talk about is the Cheslin Colby charge down of the conversion. Probably should have looked at it. The team probably should have checked it.
Was he early?
Well,
I haven't watched it back.
There's a little shuffle and he doesn't move, and then he's about 2 meters ahead of the line before.
If you gave the penalty to France, I wouldn't have argued with it.
Yeah.
It was...
I didn't even watch it back. I just thought, freak.
Hell of a play. Yeah. That was the difference, wasn't it, in the end? But
it looked like something they'd actually targeted, though. Because Ramos is actually quite a slow goal kicker, and I saw a sort of broken down thing on TikTok where He ran it took him 3 seconds or 3.2 seconds from the 20, which is not actually the quickest of 20s, but Ramos was still quite slow in his kicking run up.
Yeah, Colby got there early. He had to slow down to jump.
Yeah.
But it was targeted because he was out by himself on the thing. Like,
Yeah.
someone's watched that, and
Had a look at it because I'll be honest, like when you're playing, you're like, oh, someone chased the kick. No one chases the kick hard unless it's a game-winning kick or it's a crucial kick within the game. Because most time you're like, you sort of sprint the first 5 steps and you jog. And it's not often that you think someone's actually going to get there.
And he was pretty far back too. He took it back like 25 on He had to cover some meters. Yeah, so that was crazy from Cheslin. But as a ref, I just think for the sake of the argument, all right, let's just check it. What do you got to lose? Let's just check it. But
and that's sort of Ben O'Keefe though. He's been in a lot of controversy. Like he ref the Chiefs Crusaders final.
I remember he copped heaps on side.
Yeah, that forward pass that led to the Crusaders sort of winning try. But he sort of tries to let the game flow and stay away from the TMO. And I don't want to sound like I'm standing up for him because he's a Kiwi. But like I don't mind that because how often do people complain that the TMO is too much involved at the moment?
Yeah. We know what it's like. You can't win, be
yeah, like you can't win, and you're looking at one of the mouthiest people to refs, like, well, definitely out of the three of us. No, but yeah, like I just don't think you can win that debate, and obviously in the heat of the moment, fans are disappointed, everyone's broken, so I can see that there's a bit of backlash. But yeah, you're obviously going to look for the little points in his refereeing, and that's with any ref that sort of changed the game. I've seen it a bit with the Irish complaining around a few of the calls that they had against them, so it goes both ways. And
the loser's always going to complain about something.
Yeah.
It's just how it works. But just tragic for France on their home World Cup. This was their time. Like,
bro, even like watching them, like after they lost, like it was like sad to we're not going to be able to see them play in a semi-final because the style of footy that they play is just so entertaining, bro.
A lot of those guys won't be there next World Cup.
Dupont makes halfback look like the funnest position in rugby to play.
He is so good.
Like he does everything.
Back, like from his like those little kicks, like finding the space.
Left foot,
it looks
right
like the
foot.
game's in freaking slow motion.
Yeah,
and he copped a few on the cheek as well.
Yeah, and he'll be there at the next World Cup because he's still pretty
23,
young.
24?
Yeah, like
he's a freak. He is easily the best player in the world.
They do lose a few of their older heads.
Like Ramos, he's old, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's gone.
But they actually have quite a lot of their key positions like Jalabert, Intermac when he comes back.
What about the hooker?
They're all young. Yeah, he's young too.
He's young.
He's not even their original starting hooker.
Oh, really?
Like the actual hooker coming into the World Cup got injured. And he's come in there.
He was a freak.
Yeah. He's played unreal the whole tournament. Like he's been in my fantasy team every week because he breaks about 10 tackles a game. Like he is. He's agile. The other thing about the French is they actually won 3 under-20 World Cups in a row before COVID. So they've still got a lot of players sort of coming through in their ranks
They're
too.
a factory. They got talent everywhere.
Yeah, so they're one that's still going to be dangerous come the next World Cup. So I don't think their window's closed if you compare them to someone like Ireland, who are a lot older and it doesn't look like they have much coming through. Yeah. But yeah, the French, I think, that's their biggest chance, but I still think they'll be a top 4 team coming into the next World Cup.
So South Africa do a job and looking to go back-to-back World Cups for them. So that's a quarterfinal recap. So let's have a look at some news stories. And the one that's dominated the headlines this week is just, you mentioned it yesterday, the Southern Hemisphere just running World Rugby once again. How good? The Wallabies obviously aren't doing it, but everyone else is. What's the difference, you think? Because everyone was on the Northern, everyone's saying Northern Hemisphere's dominated, this is their time. And yeah.
I think maybe the Northern Hemisphere teams don't know how to deal with pressure when it comes into finals because they don't play much finals footy. But then you see Argentina excelling. But, South Africa and New Zealand, could you ever really write them off from making the semis? Like, you couldn't really.
Yeah, well, but everyone did. Everyone said, France and Ireland, they're going to,
Yeah, obviously experience is a big one that plays into this. I sort of read that this is New Zealand's most experienced team going into World Cup. Oh. They have about 1,500 caps. Well, they had 1,496 going into it, so they'll be well over 1,500 now. And the South African team's pretty much very similar to the team that played at the last World Cup. So, I think that's the big experience thing that we could probably look at. And if we look at Oz, talking about them not doing it, that's probably something we could look at in terms of, something to pinpoint. But, yeah, Northern Hemisphere just don't get World Cups.
Hey.
I'm just going to put it there.
Clip that.
Clip that. Well, they've won one, and that was that English side in 2003. Like, that's the only World Cup they've ever won from the Northern Hemisphere.
Damn, it's been a minute.
Yep. So that's the only. So that's sort of one big thing.
And the odds are they won't again this one.
No, well, unless England sort of pulls something out of the hat.
I don't see them beating.
No, neither do I, but we'll talk about that later, won't we, Geordie?
We will, mate.
But
yes.
yeah, I just think they also read into their own hype. Like you saw the media, like I'm expecting all 4 Six Nation teams to sweep through and everyone's sharing those articles.
I think Ireland might have, because early in that game, actually throughout the whole game, they were just aggressive. They would not take the 3. They just kept going for the sideline.
Yeah, and that sort of, I don't know, rattled them a little bit. And they just, there was a little bit of arrogance across the board, I think. Like even the French team, like they come out and were, obviously hissing at the start, and then it looked like they just thought things were going to happen after that. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't want to call it arrogance, but maybe just believe in that media hype a bit too much.
Yeah, once again, Ireland can't get past the quarterfinal.
That's what the 8 was actually for, 8-0 in quarterfinals.
I've seen that one.
That's so rough. What a wild start.
Sorry, Ronan.
Next headline locally, which is we love to talk about. Eddie Jones has committed to the Wallabies. We saw the press conference yesterday. Don't know what you're talking about, mate. Japan, what are we talking about? All fake news. He's committed to a 27. Bree?
Well, you can't be upset. Like, you could only be upset if he was going to leave after the debacle that he caused. And I think him sticking here, like, he wants Australian rugby to do well from the core outwards. So I think keeping him is the best option that we have. You can't get rid of someone who's just taking Australia through what they've been through and not let him follow out what he wanted to do with Australian rugby.
Yeah, I agree.
I did like that he said he should probably uppercut himself.
Yeah, at least he owns his
but he owns his shit. And the other thing is, I think a lot of it's got to do with, he's had so many run-ins with the media. Are they trying to bring him down because they're sort of sick of him? And at no point did he ever say he was going to Japan. We're obviously hearing reports. He said, no, I didn't do any meetings. And I don't know if he went about the right way of sort of saying, I'm going to do a press conference about it, because that made people think it was sort of legit maybe as well. And maybe he was playing a bit of mind games for a bit of a laugh, because it sounds like he was a bit of a joker even within the group. But he sort of stresses the rest of us out. We all start sort of bitching and, throwing accusations around. And I think Rian said it best. He is committed to Aussie.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they haven't sort of pushed him out, because I don't think they can afford to be paying him and Rennie's salary and the next coach that comes in.
And that's just worse. It's more terrible PR coming out of it.
Yeah, it's just
headlines we don't need.
No, and I hope he does stick on, and I hope they give him it all the way up to the next World Cup.
Yeah.
Let's let him have a crack. Let's let him build his team over the next 4 years. Let's get experience into your Carter Gordons, your Tate McDermotts, your Tom Hoopers, your Fraser McWrights, all these young ones coming through, and they're going to be on home soil. Everything's going to be sort of in their favour for them to have a big chance. I just hope they don't buy too much into rugby league.
Yeah,
you've had your one buy.
Yeah, I think he's acknowledged the gap that is the competition between rugby union, keeping players in rugby union, and how well AFL and rugby league are doing at the moment. I think it's about time that rugby union acknowledges that they are falling far behind rugby league and AFL with players at the moment.
Yeah, and I do hope, to get rugby in Australia growing, they need to start winning.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to sort of get rid of the ghetto law.
Yeah.
Don't encourage players to go overseas.
Yeah.
By no means. Find ways to give incentives for them to stay, but let's bring back a Isaac Lucas. Let's bring back a Tom Banks, those sort of guys that can sort of help your team out in the long run, because, it's not saying the players aren't quality enough here, but we probably need some of those experienced guys sticking around, and you need the depth. And the only other country I think that does that is New Zealand.
Yeah.
But we've sort of got the depth because it's a religion over there. England goes from everywhere. South Africa takes players from everywhere and lets them go and play in that French comp. So
when Australia started to do that, letting some of the senior guys go play in Japan back in the year to get the cash, let's make that a bit more open. So they can.
What was it? Wasn't it like a cap rule? You had to have a certain X amount of caps, and then you would be
60 caps. There was the ghetto law, so
which is far too many.
Yeah, far too many.
Yeah, and that's the thing. New Zealand does it; they let their players go. So Richie's going, I think. Artie, they go for 6 months in Japan. They go in their dollar, and then they come back and play for the All Blacks, and they play Super Rugby the next year. let's start letting players go on those little sabbaticals.
And they have started to, but they're only doing it to like the Hoopers, the Quades, the big names. Let's maybe open it up a bit.
Yeah, I think open up. Let players go get experience in other countries too. I just think it just teaches you a lot more about being a professional. You're in high quality environments, and I just think it's time to sort of open those gates a little bit and try and get some wins on the board to bring the fans and bring the sort of playing back up in Australia.
So what's the current rule now? Because obviously we had Richie Arnold. Like, you're allowed to take guys overseas, obviously? Like, you don't have to play in Super Rugby to play with Wallabies.
I know Skelton. I think there was only 3. They were allowed 3.
Yeah, right.
So they had Corabetti, Skelton, and must have been Richie Arnold.
Yeah.
Wait, did he play for the Brumbies this year?
No, he's over in Toulouse.
Toulouse, yeah. So they had their 3, but I just think it'd be better if we could sort of... Quade was sort of in and around there too, but just sort of bite the bullet there and let's
that's
just
hard,
get the best players sort of playing.
Yeah, I think that's hard though as well because you're trying to build Super Rugby.
And that's always been the concern, that they'll all just nick off and now our comp will be even worse than what it is.
Yeah, and like kids want to go to see Wallabies play like in those kind of games. Like when you're younger, you're not going out to see people coming up. Like Super Rugby is meant to be the
top
step down from international rugby for Australia and New Zealand, and it's kind of dropped off it. Well, since South Africa left.
So I think maybe it's just the balancing of, okay, I've got 2 quality players here, favour the one that's sort of playing at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that would be good. Yeah, and then that gives players incentive to stay and play in Australia.
So it's got to be a balance. We would need Super Rugby to be strong first, but you got to let these guys get their cash, I guess, as well. Anyway, just some final thoughts. Obviously, Johnny Sexton looks like his international career, or his rugby career is done.
Goodbye.
Dan Bigger. Oh, come on, man.
No, I don't know. I've just never really been a guy that's like Johnny Sexton.
Really? He's the man. He's 38 years old.
Don't get me wrong, quality players, but it's just like the little things. Like he's good. He's been good for a spray, and he looks like he's got a bit of a temper, and and he's got a bit of arrogance about him, and that's probably what's made him such a good footballer, though. Anyway,
all the best ones do, don't they?
Yeah, 100%. And you watch that run in between him and Rico on the weekend, and he sort of didn't like it going back to him. I just think that's a moment you've got to, you got
to wear it.
You got to cop it on the chin, and then he's in there saying, going on about Rico being disrespectful and stuff like that.
Did he say it openly?
Did he say it? He said it. They didn't like the way Rico carried on in the media and everything.
Oh no way!
But if you actually watch they had the sky footage, the drone footage.
Yeah,
it looks like Sexton says something first.
Sexton seemed the sort of guy that would fucking promote him a little bit.
Yeah, and then you just see, I think Rico turned around and was like, enjoy retirement and enjoy the flight home, and walked off.
So, that's just footy, isn't it?
That's the same chat they threw at Sam Cane when they were at NZ, saying
he's the same stuff.
He's a shit Richie McCaw.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
I just think you got to wear it on the chin at times. But no, hell of a career. I was probably being a bit of a smart ass there. But yeah.
All right, let's waste no more time. Let's get into our semi-final previews. Semi-final number 1, 5:30 Saturday morning. Argentina up against New Zealand. Argentina $9. New Zealand $1.07. The line's 18.5. The total is 48.5. Angus Gardner, the Australian, will be our referee in the middle. Boys, 2 teams that know each other very well.
Yep. Yeah, had a lot of rugby against each other. If you look back to their last game in the Rugby Championship, I think it was 41-12.
Yeah, I was good here in July.
Yeah, like New Zealand were all over them, and if you look at that NZ team, no Richie, the whole back. Bowden was there, but they had I think Caleb Clark and Amoni Narawa on the wings, so it's a whole different All Black team going into it, and a pretty similar sort of Argentinian team minus Matera, and I think for me Argentina's like we spoke of, they got to start Sanchez for any chance for them to sort of knock it off, but I'm favouring the All Blacks big here.
So these 2 sides have played each other 36 times. New Zealand's won 33, Argentina twice and 1 draw. That last win coming in 2022, New Zealand lost 25-18. Boys, you've seen both these 2 teams. What would Argentina have to do to beat the All Blacks? What has to go to plan? How do they have to play the game to beat them? Ree?
I think what they did against Wales won't be enough. They have to go searching for the points and making opportunities to get points, not just waiting to capitalise off mistakes, because I don't have any stats here, but I'm going to go with All Blacks probably make like up to the least mistakes out of any other team in world rugby. I think I honestly I don't see any way for Argentina to get it done, but I also have to say they've earned my respect over this World Cup because I've ridden them off every chance that I've had. So I think they'll cover the line. What is it? 18.
18.5, Argentina.
Yeah.
I reckon just from regards to them, I reckon it's all about the start. They need to start well early, get momentum off the get-go. They go take the backward step, consider early try. I think it's all over.
Like I think they're actually paying about $8-9 to win.
9.
9, yeah. So they're obviously severe underdogs here, and I think you've got to embrace that, sort of what New Zealand did last week against Ireland. But you just got to come in and reset it from the get-go. Just fire your shots. Like, you win, you stay, you lose, you're going home, and
They've got nothing to lose.
nothing to lose. So go out there, have an attacking play. You're not going to probably beat New Zealand through goal kicks.
Yeah.
So
they've got to attack.
They've got to attack, and they've got to back this sort of forward pack. They've got a big forward pack. Obviously, an experienced hooker and a couple of good front rowers there. So they've got to look to target set piece, look to be as disruptive as possible. Any chance they can slow that ball down at the ruck, anytime they can stop the game from sort of flowing, that's going to suit them and sort of disrupt New Zealand, because New Zealand love playing open rugby. They love to build phases and love to attack. So,
but even unstructured attack, though, they'll...
Not necessarily unstructured, just anything you can to sort of stop the game. So whether it's, I don't know, this is bad, but slowing it down with little injury niggles, any chance in the breakdown you can to sort of hold that ball in that second longer. Just little things like that are going to disrupt New Zealand from getting that flow and getting that momentum in their attack, because the last thing they want to do is go sort of try for try of New Zealand and let them play that fast. Like, I know Argentina's got a fast ruck speed on attack, but you're not going to win sort of out attacking New Zealand. Like, there's too many weapons in that NZ side, and I think NZ have got a lot of confidence after last week, and they'll be looking to sort of go for a statement win here and put sort of 30 plus points on Argentina.
Yeah, they're always getting better and better each game they play. So let's go some picks. Ree?
All Blacks, Argentina to cover the line, and I'm going to go with Rico Ioane, anytime try scorer.
Just for fun, got an exact score for me? Just to... Give me a number, mate.
I'll go... Need to do the math quickly.
Oh, yep, sweet. Just live TV.
28-10. Only just covering the line. Is that right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, 18.5.
Yeah.
Good math. Tyler?
I've also got Argentina covering in the line, just because I think semi-final, they're going to be key. And I've actually got Will Jordan dotting over for a double here.
Oh, yeah.
I just think the way they attack down that edge and his ability to finish, I think will sort of suit him to get a double here. And then it means going into the final, he'll be going for that sort of World Cup record. That's my hope anyway, but I think he can get it done. And then I've got the overs, over 47.5 points.
Yep.
Like, I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. And if I was to go an exact score, I'm sort of looking at that sort of 35-17. That math right? Yeah, that puts it 18 points as well. But yeah, that 34, 35, 17. I think Argentina probably score a late one. I do think New Zealand are going to dominate this game.
Yeah, so for me, I agree. New Zealand to win. Both of these teams know each other very well. There won't be any surprises. Argentina need to start well, and they'll come out with no attitude, nothing to lose attitude. But All Blacks to win. Argentina plus the 18.5, going over 48.5. New Zealand win 32-22. Tries to Will Jordan and Buffelli for Argentina for me on the wing. So, yeah, I hope it's a game, because you want it to be exciting.
Yeah, no one wants a blowout, and I think it's a good sort of key indicator of what is the difference between these two sides of the draw. There's been a lot of talk about that sort of Pool C, Pool D not being very strong compared to the other two pools. So I'd like to see that it is quite even across the board, because we've talked about how good rugby and how much it's thriving after sort of our top four teams have all played in the quarters. So I'd like to see those teams compete at least.
Check will have them fired up, surely. Alrighty, semi-final number 2, 5:30 Sunday morning. England versus South Africa. England $5, South Africa $1.13. The line is 13.5. A rematch of the Rugby World Cup final in 2019. England were shaky versus Fiji, but found a way to win. We spoke about it before. Springboks, they were just classy and they just competed to the very end. How do we see this one playing out?
Bit of a revenge game, obviously. Like for England, the back of their mind's going to be that 2019 World Cup final.
32-12, they got spanked.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think England have the talent to get it done, but I do think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. I think the way England slow the game down, the way they kick the ball a lot, it's sort of South Africa's going to do the same thing. Like they'll kick and they'll look for high balls, and I expect South Africa to sort of target Marcus Smith if he's back there again. He's not a big body. He's not predominantly a 15 and sort of good in the air.
Yeah, so on him, he's probably the only injury concern looking at, HIA issues, so I'm assuming he'll be fine. Just quickly on the defence stats. So South Africa have only conceded 8.5 points a game, like average, which is second best in the tournament. And they were going against England, which is the third best, 9.75 points. So defence is key, which does point towards the unders for me.
Yeah, so I've got the unders 43.5.
Yeah.
So that's what I've put down here, and I still think England, because it's going to be unders, cover that line too, because I think there's going to be a lot of sort of goal kicking.
Who cover?
Yeah, definitely.
England.
Get within the number, yeah.
I reckon I think it's going to be England sort of just trying to play the territory game, and South Africans obviously kicked well on the weekend,
Yeah.
but Lebok probably hasn't had any consistency for us to sort of back him in that sort of regard. So yeah, I could see a game where there's less than 4 tries and there's 3 penalties apiece for either side, but I do think South Africa gets the job done, because I do think they have that little bit more of X factor to sort of capitalise on those crucial moments like they did against France.
Before I come to you, Reece, so these guys have met 45 times. South Africa 27 wins, England 16 wins, and they've drawn twice. Last meeting was in 2022, South Africa won 27-13, but England have actually won 3 of their last 5 against the Box. What's your picks here?
I think South Africa again, will be too strong, too physical as well. We just watched England battle it out against Fiji, and I think the physicality there was, I wouldn't say a problem, but they were getting beat up all across the park, and now they're coming in against arguably the most physical team in world rugby. So I think South Africa will get the job done, and like you said, look for those high ball kicks and putting pressure on, and then I'll go Chiz and Colby to score off one of those drop balls again.
Score?
I think it'll be close. I'll go 22-13.
Lovely.
That's just off the top of it. I don't even know how that could happen.
No, it could happen, mate.
1 try, 2 conversions.
So you had England plus the points, South Africa win. Score?
Yeah, under the 33.5. So I'm looking at I don't even know if England's going to score a try, because this is probably the hardest defence they've gone up against. So I could see it being sort of like a 20-9, 20-12, but at England all being kicks.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where my sort of thought process around that.
Lovely. For me, South Africa to win here, too good. But I'm going to go England plus the 13 points, under 43.5 for me. Correct score, 25-16 to the Box. So that books us to a South Africa-New Zealand final if we are all on the money.
Which, to be fair, I think those are your 2 biggest rivals at the moment.
It would be epic, wouldn't it?
Both got 3 World Cups.
Whoever wins this goes to 4.
Goes to get in their 4th and probably has a bit more of a claim of being the best rugby nation. And I think everyone sort of wants to see that final now with sort of Ireland and France gone. I think originally everyone wanted obviously those 2 teams, 2 fresh faces, sort of winning the World Cup. But now you've got the sort of experienced dogs in there, the 2 most sort of experienced teams in the comp too.
Yeah.
So in terms of players that are on the field, and I think we'd all want to see that, but never say never. It's knockout footy. Argentina could get the job done. England did it to us in 2019, where they came in with a game plan and sort of rocked us to our core and
executed and
took it. So you can't write anyone off in finals footy, but I'd love to see a South Africa-New Zealand final. It'd just be a spectacle to watch, really.
I'd honestly rather England win.
100%.
Yeah.
Because I hate South Africa more than I hate England. Just because their fans are all in your face every time they... Beto, I'm speaking to you.
But that's my... I hate South Africa in terms of us playing them and sort of the communication between the fans. But as a rugby nation, I probably respect them the next.
They do it
New
very
Zealand.
well, yes. But just as fans, they're just grubs.
I just got a question. We talked about Marcus Smith's HIA. Any of the South Africans in doubt?
I haven't read anything. No.
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not.
Because it's all fake news, mate.
No, they can't be in doubt because they all got back on the field.
Oh, true.
So they all pass their HIA here. It'd be pretty hard to fail it, if you're not
just staring
concussed.
Reed here. At the point where I'm staring Reed.
Don't get him going, man. Don't get him going. So
cheat.
that's us. Massive weekend semi-final footy. Closing thoughts. Anything from you boys?
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I just think there's two games now, and obviously a lot to play for everyone, and a lot to see if the World Rugby is as close as we're sort of claiming it to be. But yeah, I just hope we sort of get 2 quality games. Like we got 4 on the weekend, 4 close games. I'm hoping for another 2 close games, edge of your seat stuff, because as a fan, it's the stuff you want to watch.
So good.
Last weekend was amazing. Are we gonna watch one of these?
Yeah, we'll have to watch one together.
Yeah,
We'll
I
work
think
it
we
out.
should.
Yeah, bloody hell, we get some. Oh, if we do a New Zealand game, you two just yelling at the TV.
Maybe we do England, South Africa.
Yeah, I think we should.
Zane Nongle's back and he's ready to come in at full noise this weekend. So
Chuck him on the potty. He'll love that. On that note, one final show next week, grand final show. It's going to be huge, so don't miss that. But until next time, enjoy your Rugby World Cup, and we'll see you then.
hit your button, Ree.